Hi, everyone. Welcome to this breakout session, Finding the Good in Imposter Syndrome. I'm Candace Thorson, Managing Editor at GovLoop, and I'm your moderator here today. So thanks so much for joining us. Let's dive into the content. So what we're going to talk about is imposter syndrome. You know, there are times when even no matter if you're super accomplished, you still can feel underqualified or ill-equipped to handle new challenges, whether it's, you know, a new job or just a new responsibility you've gotten. Maybe, you know, you look around and you're looking at people with less tenure than you, and you're thinking, well, I should know stuff that they don't. And that can be daunting. So what we're going to talk about today is how you can reframe that kind of doubt into a way to grow and into a way to motivate yourself and make you more resilient. Before I introduce our speaker, who I will say has a really awesome PowerPoint presentation, I just have to go over a few housekeeping stuff first. So we have additional resources for you in the resources tab at the bottom of the screen, so check those out. If you need closed captioning, we have that feature. So just click on the show captions icon at the bottom of the screen. If you have technical problems, which we hope you don't, but just put a little message in the Q&A tab and Julia, my colleague, will help you out. You can use the Q&A portal, obviously, to ask questions of our speaker. So absolutely feel free to do that whenever. We have the chat, so you know that's where you can publicly talk to your attendees. But if you want to put questions in there, also go for it. And if you miss anything, don't worry. You want to just kind of look at stuff again. That's totally fine because tomorrow we're going to send you a link to this entire session on demand. And then finally, we're going to give one CPE credit for your participation today. So in order to get the credit, you have to do three things. You have to stay for the entire session. You have to take all the polls, and there are going to be four of them. And then you have to fill out the post-event CPE evaluation form. And you can find that either at the bottom of the console here, or you can go back to the main exhibit, exhibit hall, and it'll be in the resource center. Just as a heads up, though, the polls are going to appear as a pop-out on your screen. So once we launch a poll, it's going to appear as a box. You just choose your response, hit submit, and then that way we can be assured that you've taken the poll. So I have all that housekeeping stuff. I try to talk really fast, but anyway. Our speaker is Mary Abbajay. She is president and CEO of Cornerstone Group LLC and a real expert on these issues. So I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. And Candace, you want to hear some fast talking? People, buckle up because I talk fast. Hey, NextGen folks, so excited to be here today. I love talking about this topic, mostly because I suffer from this topic, as many of you probably do. I do want to give a shout out to any of my Fed Govies out there, hoping that you are well and you are surviving yet this next crisis that we are under. Public servants, I know it's a tough job. And to all my state people, you guys got to keep hanging on because we really need to rely on you as much as anything. All right, so we're going to talk about the imposter syndrome today. So greetings from your imposter syndrome. I love this slide because we wish you deserve to be here. So we're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about how it kind of comes about, but we're really going to spend most of our time today talking about how you can find the good in the imposter syndrome. And just for a little bit of like grounding, I just want you to know that is very common. Something like 70% of high achieving women and 60% of high achieving men all have periodic bouts of imposter feelings. And the term imposter syndrome is kind of an outdated term. More and more researchers are calling it the imposter phenomena because syndrome makes it seem like it's a diagnosed disease, and it's not. So we're going to refer to it as the imposter syndrome. We're going to refer to it as the imposter phenomena, and we're also just going to refer to it as imposterism. Whenever you have these feelings of being an imposter. And I want to go through a little bit of definition just to make sure we're all on the same page. And what this is when we have a psychological pattern in which we as individuals unrealistically undervalue our skills, our talents, our accomplishments. And then we have this kind of persistent, whether it's periodic or constant, internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. I'm not good enough. I don't belong here. I just got lucky. Whether you have this experience once in a while or you have it frequently, this is what the imposter phenomena is. It's about this feelings of being a fraud, of not being good enough, despite real concrete evidence to the contrary. So let's start with our first poll that Candace is going to launch. And this is just, I'm just curious as how often you feel the imposterism feeling. So go ahead and launch that poll number one.
Um, hmm. Let me see.
Oh, there it
Oh,
is.
thank
So
you.
do you experience this all the time, frequently, occasionally, rarely, or have you never experienced this before? So go ahead and give your answer. I have to confess, like even though I'm fairly accomplished, I own my own business. I am a published author. I get paid a shit ton of money, and I'm sorry, that's an official term, a lot of money to get to speak about things. And I will tell you, I occasionally, frequently also suffer from the imposter syndrome. I'm thinking I'm not good enough. Why they hire me? I just got lucky. Maybe my price was so cheap they couldn't say no. So there's no shame in this game. The idea is to actually understand how often you are experiencing that. So we're going to go ahead, keep answering that. And Candace, when you think you have enough people, you can let us know what the results are.
Actually, we have almost 100% participation, so I'm going to end it now.
Oh, great. Let's see it. Let's see what we got here. Oh, all the time. Oh, I'm going to fix you today, or I'm going to help you today. Frequently, I hear you occasionally. Yep, rarely. I love that. The rarely people give us some sort of tips in the chat box that have helped you rarely experience that. And speaking of the chat box, I do really want to encourage everybody to chat their ideas, their strategies, their thoughts. I'm going to try to make this as interactive as possible. So I'm going to be asking you all to chat quite a bit throughout this. So get your chat fingers ready. So some of the key features of imposter syndrome are things like the belief that you have an inflated sense of your abilities, or as I said before, feeling that you're going to be found out any moment, or that persistent self-doubt despite objective success. And there is kind of a difference between a lack of confidence and the imposter syndrome. And so a lot of researchers want to separate those out, but I'm going to mush them back together because at the end of the day, imposterism does impede your ability to have self-confidence. So whether or not your self-confidence arises from the imposter syndrome or you just have a lack of self-confidence, everything we talk about today is going to help you counteract those feelings. Frequent tendency to attribute success to external factors, that's a key feature. And all of this is really based on an inaccurate self-appraisal. So if you really do, quite frankly, suck at your job, if you really are an incompetent person, my guess is you're probably not in this session, right? Because if you're in this session, chances are you are not those things. So you might, when you're feeling this self-doubt, you might be suffering from imposterism. So that's, I have this really funny cartoon that says, you know, your imposter syndrome is because you are self-doubting or you just suck at your job. I didn't put that. Anyway, all right. So let's talk about some of the impacts of imposterism, both in terms of how it impacts your behavior, how it impacts your career, and how it impacts your mental and psychological health. Potential behavioral impacts. People that suffer from imposterism often go overboard. They overprepare, they overwork. They just really need to want to make sure that they have tied up every loose end, that they are more prepared than ever. So this can be very stressful. Sometimes with imposter syndrome, we find ourselves holding back from our ideas, holding back from raising our hand for a new opportunity, holding back from going after our dreams. Or sometimes it makes us procrastinate. We don't start things because we're afraid of failing. We don't start things because we're not good enough. Or maybe we start them, but we don't finish them. Oh, I'm going to write this book. I'm halfway through. Oh no, I'm not good enough. I'm an imposter. I'm not going to finish this important project, which often also can lead to self-sabotage. People will often self-sabotage their success or their accomplishments because they are under the grips of imposterism. It can also make you keep a low profile, fly under the radar, don't raise your hand, don't speak up in meetings, keeping a low profile so people don't learn that you are a fraud. And one of the really, I think, saddest behavioral impacts for imposterism is our reluctance to ask for help. Oftentimes people under the throes of the imposter phenomena feel like if they ask for help, then that just proves that they're an imposter. So these are some behavioral impacts. Allison says, sometimes being overly emotional or under emotional. I love that, Allison. Absolutely. That can actually be a behavioral impact. So these behavioral impacts, of course, don't happen in isolation. When we're talking about imposterism at work, they're going to have potential career impacts. So pay attention if any of these have impacted you when under the influence of imposterism. Sometimes we will take jobs below our abilities, right? Or we won't seek advancement. We're not good enough. I'm a fraud. Everyone else is smarter than I am. Oftentimes we will fail to negotiate, and this happens a lot with women who are already challenged when it comes to negotiating things like salaries or benefits or just negotiating what you want or what you need. Abandoning dreams, that was a heartbreaker, but very common. Sometimes we actually leave a job or a school if we're feeling that we are not, if we don't belong. Not speaking up in meetings, lack of work-life balance. This is what happens when we are constantly over-preparing, overworking, and letting others control us. When our imposterism keeps us from self-advocating, it means other people can't control you. So these are some of potential career impacts if we don't get a handle on our imposter phenomena. And then the meta impact. So this is really about understanding how all of this, if it isn't curtailed, is going to impact us as people, as human beings. So it definitely is going to cause some psychological distress. It can cause depression, anxiety, stress. It can have reduced productivity or performance, which then is kind of an unvirtuous circle. When we have reduced productivity and performance, we lose confidence, reduced well-being, and increased burnout. So if you're always overperforming, if you're always stressed about like not being good enough, then your well-being and your risk of burnout are really, your well-being is reduced, your risk of burnout is increased. And it has an impact on your authenticity and your identity. If we're so worried that we don't belong or that we're going to be found out, it's really hard to show up as our authentic self. And we'll talk a little bit about authenticity in a moment around organizational stimulus. Yeah, Carrie, absolutely. Maybe this could also fall under not seeking advancement, but also not seeking further education. All these things might happen. So, in the next poll that Candace is going to launch, I'm curious about what impacts that you have felt. And this is multiple choice. So, how have you, even if it was just for 5 minutes or one day or 1 year or 1 month, how have you noticed that imposterism has impacted you? Have you over prepared? Have you held back? Have you procrastinated? Have you kept a low profile? I'm definitely reluctant to ask for help. I mean, that is a problem of mine. I will admit it. Uh, yes, absolutely, Trisha. These are very chicken and egg situations. Both of these can go either way. Depression and anxiety can lead to imposter syndrome and vice versa. I'm also very bad
Because
at negotiating when I feel like I'm not really worthy. I'm not really good at negotiating. So, yeah, so take a moment. Let us know which ones that you do. Oh, abandoning dreams. Kids, I do all of these. All of these I have done before.
I'm going to give people some time because I think people are trying to decide there because there are multiple options. I think they're spending time thinking about it. So, but I think all these, because I love this topic of imposter syndrome, which I think the imposter phenomenon is interesting. I like that. I like saying that better, actually. Well, I
Yeah.
can't say it, but for some reason that word just does not. But
Phenomena.
I like, yeah, I like the concept of it. But I
Yeah.
think all of these, I know in the past when I felt imposter syndrome, I really try over preparing and overworking.
Yeah.
So
That's a
I
good
can feel
point.
like I'm on the same level as people who um, I'm comparing myself to, often unfairly comparing myself to.
Yeah, Carrie Cross, also reluctance to turn a project because it's not perfect. Now, perfectionism is a huge sort of outcrop that of imposterism. And they can also go back handling, hating small talk, says Rita. Roland over prepares for everything. So we're
Yeah.
going to go ahead and keep going. because I have a lot more stuff to tell you. So this is all the bad news, right? These are the things that can go wrong if we don't actually get a hand on. Oh, here we go. Terrific. Over preparing, that's a big one. Holding back is big. Keeping a low profile. Those are the big ones. Reluctant to ask for help, abandoning dreams. Yeah, these are so, yeah, thank you. So, we're going to talk about this, but actually understanding what it is and the impact is one of the first things we have to do in order to actually resolve this and keep it from us moving forward. So that's all the bad news. But wait, everybody, because here's the good news. Yes, the rest of the time we're going to be talking about good news. And the good news is simply this: imposterism can also be a great motivator. So much research has been shown that when people actually identify their imposterism and they identify it with an attitude of growth, they can actually use this as a great motivator and a great growth accelerator. But in order to do that, you have to be able to name it and tame it, right? Name it and tame it. If you know how to use this, it's sort of like karate. If you can take this negative energy and you can form it into something else, it can be a great motivator without turning you into a workaholic perfectionist, right? So we're going to talk about that now. For the rest of this time, we're going to talk about how you can turn the negative connotations of imposterism into positive motivators for your success and your happiness, both in work and in life. All right, so here's how you do it. I love the expression, you got to name it to tame it, right? Abraham, know you're good enough and what others seek to reinforce imposters in the workplace. Love that, Abraham. So you got to name it to tame it, right? So we're going to talk about these 7 strategies. First of all, we got to be able to recognize it and its causes. That goes a long way to understanding some of the strategies you'll choose. Embracing intellectual humility, we'll talk about that. You have to rewire your inner dialogue. That's like a huge part of the whole game. Talking about it, getting a mentor, being a mentor. You have to be able to track, celebrate, and own your successes. And then, of course, if you can cultivate a growth mindset, these are all strategies that can help you turn that imposter syndrome into a motivator syndrome. So let's talk about the first one. It can be very helpful if you take a moment to really think about what is at the root of your imposterism. And so some of the common causes or correlations of imposterism are these. One, it could be a result of your upbringing, how you were parented, your personal background, something that's happened in your formative years or is going on in your personal life that is causing you to feel like a failure. Maybe you were always overlooked as a child. Maybe you were a sibling that was you were the sibling that was not the golden child, right? Things like this can really have, or maybe you had parents that were like super, like the tiger parents, like that, just wanted you to go everywhere and failure wasn't an option. Low trust in organizational culture. So sometimes it's not even you, sometimes it's the system that you are in. Pluralistic ignorance. I think this is my favorite, and I think this is the one that's the cause of mine. Pluralistic ignorance, which is hard to say, pluralistic ignorance is when we think we're the only ones that haven't figured it out, and everybody around us knows exactly what they're doing, and they know exactly, what's going on. Well, the truth is, my friends, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody's just making it up as they go along. So once you can embrace that and truly believe that, it's very helpful. Underrepresented identity or identities in your industry, field of organization. This is one of the big pushes that got imposterism to talk about being a phenomena, because what we find is people of diverse racial, ethnic, or gender identities often are in organizations where they're the only one. They're the only one, and they don't really belong, or they're so underrepresented that they start to feel like they are imposters because they don't belong. Perfectionism is a huge cause of imposterism, and again, as we talked about, imposterism can also cause perfectionism. Low self-esteem or low confidence. This can also drive feelings of imposterism. This is why I like to include the conversations around confidence and esteem into imposterism, because they're so tightly connected. And then, of course, high pressure environments or high achievement contexts. When you have to be, the number one, you have to ace everything, that can be so overwhelming that that can start to drive some imposterism. So these are some common causes. So being able to name it is one of the first strategies you can do to start to tame it. So ask yourself, is it you or the system? Oftentimes in the system, as we talked about briefly a moment ago, it might be institutional racism and bias. It exists, people, despite what they say in some levels of our government, it is there and it exists. Also for women, most leadership models in the Western organization are leadership models. They're Eurocentric, masculine, and heteronormative, right? So if you don't have those male agentic leadership qualities, then you may not feel like you are good enough to be a leader. And as I said a couple times before, when you are the only one of some kind of identity in a team or office or organization, then you know what? It might be the system and not necessarily you. So it's important to understand if this is coming from within you or coming from outside of you. So name where it comes from. The second strategy is, let me go to the chats for a minute. Steven says, my CPA exam success achieved score between 76 and 86 was instantly discounted by my inner critic. Yeah, see? Boom. It still looks in your shadows. And Paula says, I've seen this from a low self-esteem and low confidence when the person hitting it out of the park, but do not see themselves as they should there, be praised, doing a great job. I love that. So our next strategy is number one, see if you can't identify its root causes. That will help you choose the right strategies. The second strategy is really reframing your imposterism as what we call intellectual humility, right? So when we think that we're not smart enough or we don't know enough, everybody else knows more than us, this thing is actually called intellectual humility. And this is the recognition that your knowledge or your beliefs or your experience just might well be incomplete, or you know what? You might be mistaken. And that willingness to look at that, to revise your ideas, to learn when you don't know, when presented with new evidence perspectives is intellectual humility. So it's not about doubting yourself. It's about balancing the confidence in what you do know with an openness to what you don't. When we embrace intellectual humility, that keeps us in a learning mode and also keeps us from becoming arrogant. I think intellectual humility is one of the most important things in the 21st century. I think if we can actually embrace the fact that we don't know everything, if we can embrace the fact that we are learners, not performers, that's going to help us all not only take that imposterism and be like, you know what? It's actually kind of good that I don't feel like I know everything, because this is going to open me up to being intellectually humble. And that is so important for leaders and for colleagues and professionals. I'm going to give you some benefits of intellectual humility. Here they are. Number one, when we can embrace our intellectual humility, which is just another nice way of saying you have a little bit of imposterism, we make better decisions. So research has shown that leaders who practice intellectual humility are more likely to gather more information, they'll consider more angles, and they avoid groupthink because they are actually involving other people. They don't walk in thinking they know everything. When we have intellectual humility, we build stronger relationships. You know why? Because people want to work with you, because you're not Mr. Miss Know-It-All everywhere. You're not the smarty pants in the room person. So people are going to be more engaged and more collaborated because you are going to make them feel more heard and more respected. Faster learning and growth, when we can admit that I don't know or I was wrong, that creates learning space. And that's a key part of being adaptable in today's fast-changing environments. Number four, psychological safety, which I know you all know what that is. That is an absolutely critical factor for building great teams. When you, as a leader or a colleague, can model humility, it means that it's safe for others to ask questions. It's safe for others to share dissenting viewpoints. It's safe for others to admit their mistakes. And when we create psychological safety for you and for others, it also opens up the room to be able to talk about imposterism, which we'll talk about that in a moment. And number five, it really does help you build credibility and trust, which is so funny because we think imposterism, we think if anyone finds out we don't know something, that's going to kill our credibility and trust. But actually, it's the opposite. When you can admit that you don't know everything, when you can admit that you're not sure, then that often will build trust because it signals honesty, it signals accountability, it signals self-awareness rather than arrogance or defensiveness. So one positive element of the imposter syndrome is hopefully if you embrace the intellectual humility about it, you will avoid being the arrogant a-hole that nobody wants to work with. So that is that strategy. All right. Number three, probably the heart of everything is going to involve some of this. And this is about really rewiring your inner dialogue. Really pay attention to the voice inside your head, your imposter voice. In the coaching world, we call this your gremlin. This is the voice that keeps telling you that you're not enough. This is the voice that keeps sending you those messages that you're a fraud, that keeps sending you those messages that you're the only one that doesn't know what's going on, right? So you've got to name and tame and interrogate the inner gremlin. And then, of course, using positive information. So these are some things that we can do to actually rewire our inner dialogue. So in order to do that, the first thing we have to do, of course, is recognize what our inner dialogue is. So these are some things often that our gremlins will say to us. You know, if I can't do it perfectly, I shouldn't do it at all. I'm not as smart, as talented as people think I am. Why can't I be as good as they are? Anyone could have done what I did. They're just being nice. People are going to see through me. I should already know this. I shouldn't need help. Like, these are the messages. So when you hear these messages in your head, first of all, you've got to be aware that they're just stories. That they're stories that your inner dialogues are making up, right? You've got to be able to confront them. You've got to acknowledge them. You've got to name them, and then you're going to tame them. And we tame them by actively challenging those stories. So here's a couple of tips to do that. One, when you get that story, so maybe the story is, they never should have hired me. I'm going to fail at this. I don't know what I'm doing, right? I had that story all the time. I had imposter syndrome before this session. I swear to God. So then you're going to say, is this thought 100% true? So am I really a failure? Do I really not deserve to be here? Have I really not worked hard? Like, really, challenge that story. What's the evidence that says I'm a failure? Well, I don't think I've ever really failed at anything, or maybe I did once. Maybe, I only got a 76 on my CPA exam. That wasn't even a failure. So really make yourself name the evidence. And then what's the evidence against it? So, all right, so here's the evidence against I'm a failure. I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, I accomplished this, boom. And then what's a more balanced way to see it? And this is really the key here. So you're not saying I don't have any flaws. What you're saying is, yeah, this is a challenging thing I've been asked to do, and I've met other challenges before this. And so I think I can use my learning to figure this out. So you got to challenge and interrogate those stories. Don't let them just ruminate. Don't let them go unattended. Yes, Stephen, we control our inner narrative. Owning it helps. You've got to name it, and then you've got to tame it. It is shocking what you can do when you actually start to control your inner dialogue. So you got to name it. Now, once you've interrogated your dialogue, then you want to use some positive affirmations. And you can get here by really thinking about the more balanced way to see things. So, you know what? I belong in this room. I belong here. I'm ready for this. I have the qualifications for this. My effort, my preparation paid off for this. I've paid my dues. I've earned this opportunity. I can figure this out. Carrie Cross, speaking at my meetings, they need my insight. No one else will bring the same perspective. I love that, Carrie. Paula Bloom says, we are always harder on ourselves than others usually are, but we need to figure out how to talk positively to ourselves. Paula, I love that. I mean, think about that inner dialogue. Would you ever say that out loud to somebody that you cared about? No, you're never going to tell someone else that they're a fraud and they don't belong there if you cared about them. So if you care about yourself, why are you letting yourself talk to yourself that way? Or you have to start treating ourselves like we are valued human beings. Jacques said, Dunning-Kruger effect on the other side of the spectrum, where people overestimate their own competence. Yeah, that is definitely a challenge, but we're not talking about those people today. But those people actually are frauds. But you know what? We're going to leave those people alone for now. Louisa said, look at the evidence against and the positive evidence. Yeah, look at both the evidence. It's like, if you're going to tell yourself the story, then what evidence are you using? Like, you got to name it, because chances are you'll probably come up with very little evidence, because usually imposterism is based on a fraudulent self-assessment, right? So make sure you look at both. So challenge those stories. You got to name them. All right. Strategy number 4. You got to talk about it, right? Talk about it. Don't just keep this all bottled up inside of you. Actually, being able to talk about with colleagues, talk about with friends, talk about it with people that you trust. Talk about with people who will be real with you, right? Really create a squad. We're all going to have moments of low self-confidence. We're all going to have moments of professional fear. So make sure you have people around you that can keep your esteem up, can keep you confident, that can remind you how fabulous you are. And you want to choose your squad wisely, right? So when I talk about the art of getting feedback, I say that I think this is based on Adam Grant stuff, that there are kind of three groups of people that you can turn to when you want some honest feedback. The first group of people are called your unloving critics, right? And these are your frenemies. These are the people they're just waiting to shiv you in the back the moment they can give you that left-handed compliment. They're just like, oh, 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 don't use those people to help boost your self-esteem or get any critical, honest feedback because they're just going to shiv you. Just leave them alone. The other part of people that could be in your squad are what we call your uncritical lovers. And these are like, well, these are like your parents, right? These are the people that love you, that you can do no wrong. The sun rises and sets on everything you say. Like these people are great for a boost of self-esteem, but you're not going to get any like constructive feedback from them, right? The people that you want in your squad when you actually want some critical, like constructive help are what we call your critical lovers. These are the people that love you and will be real with you and will be honest with you. These are the people that will say to you, yeah, you do look fat in those jeans. Try this pair instead. Or you know what? I don't really like that color on you. Try this color. Like these are the people that you would trust to tell you the truth, but they also have your back. Those are the people that you want to make sure you have a squad of so that when you bring your feelings of insecurity or you bring your fears or your challenges, they're there to help you with love, compassion, empathy, and support. Affinity groups are also great ways to be able to talk about imposter syndrome because oftentimes affinity groups are for groups that are underrepresented or they have something in common. And there's often a lot of people in those groups who would be more than happy to talk about their imposterism. Just sharing your experience with people who are like you in some way that you have some sort of connection to can be a great way. And for those of you who are leaders or managers, make the space to have these conversations. Create the opportunity for people to talk about this. You would be shocked if you are a leader, share if you've ever experienced imposterism. This helps also create psychological safety. I'm actually doing a workshop with about 100 senior women in telecommunications in about a week, and they are all so excited to talk about this because to a T, almost every one of them has gone through bouts of imposterism. These are women at their highest levels in their field. So if you are a manager, if you are a leader, take them time to actually create space for people to have these conversations. Talk about it. Don't keep it under wraps. Don't keep it as some shameful thing. It is something like, as I said before, like 70% of women, 60% of men have experienced this. Talk about it. Get it out from under the shadows. All right, strategy number 5. I believe this is number 5. I may be losing my count. Gobo. When it comes to mentoring, get one, be one. So here's the thing. Well, I'll talk about getting a mentor. Mentors can be really helpful for this because it can really help you learn what you don't know. They can help you build your self-confidence. They can help reassure you that you do belong here, that you do have the chops to be here. They'll remind you of your successes because they'll be asking you about your successes. And they might also help you understand when they've been an imposter. So getting a mentor can be a great way to override any of the negative effects that imposterism might have. They'll be really great at helping you rise above any feelings of imposterism. But being a mentor, I think, is actually even more important. Here's why. It's hard to feel like a fraud when you're teaching somebody how to do something, right? It is one of the most amazing things when you actually mentor somebody on how to be successful or how to learn about something. You suddenly start to realize, wow, I kind of know a thing or two. Wow, I actually did overcome that challenge. Wow, I actually did learn how to do that. Wow, I actually am a person that people think, is helpful to them. So being a mentor is an amazing way to help get over your imposterism and to use your imposterism to help other people. So you want to make sure you're sharing your knowledge, you're sharing your talent, you're sharing your experiences. You're going to be a mentor that's all going to be sharing the challenges that you met and anytime you had imposter syndrome. You're going to be the kind of mentor that cheers people on. And we've known this actually for a while. And Dan Pink just recently did a video on this. People learn best by teaching. So even if you're not 1000% sure about what you're mentoring somebody on, when we have to teach somebody something, that reinforces our learning. It actually makes us learn more. So go, Bo, my people. Go get one, go be one. Mentoring is a huge thing. Yes, Ruth, mentoring should be a mutually beneficial relationship. I would say whenever I mentor people, I learn just as much, probably more than my mentee learns from me. So make sure that you are doing that. So mentoring. All right. This is a big one. This is a big one, my friends. Um, so part of getting over the imposter syndrome is be able to really acknowledge our successes, right? It's about really being able to pull quickly from our back pocket when we're talking to our gremlin that we actually have successes, that we actually have accomplishments. So you have to really be able to track them, own them, and celebrate them. Because if you don't track them, how are you going to remember them? If you don't own them, how are you going to celebrate them? If you can't track, own, or celebrate your successes, how are you going to tell that gremlin in your head that they are wrong and they need to get out of your head? So track, own, celebrate. Here's a couple of easy ways to do that. Keep what I call a success file. This is a list of your accomplishments, your successes, your praises, and your compliments. Whether you do it on the computer, whether you keep it in a notebook, take the time to track this stuff. So often in our world, what we do is we work really hard, we have an accomplishment, we complete something cool, we get a success, we get a compliment or praise, and we just say, you know what, okay, next, right? We just move on to the next. Or we get a compliment and we just say, no, 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 we just discount it. Stop discounting your compliments. Stop not celebrating your successes. Stop immediately moving on to the next thing because you don't think that accomplishment was good enough. What I want you to do simply is to just start keeping a file. Maybe at the end of the session, that you're going to make a list of 10 things that you have accomplished this past year. Or next time you're looking for a job or you're thinking about the next job you want, list 10 things that would qualify you for the next job, the project or opportunity. I'm going to go to the chat just for a minute. This is huge. We'll spend tons of time on our failures. We do not learn or celebrate our success. Yes, Paula, you're 1% right. I will give this workshop, and let's say I get 99 people say, this was great, this was helpful, I really liked it. And one person's going to say, this was crap, right? Guess which comment I'm going to focus on for the next 6 months? The one comment that was crap, right? When we do this to ourselves, we are reinforcing our imposterism. What I want you to do is I want you to acknowledge, well, maybe one person thought was crap, but guess what? 9 other people really liked it. That's really great, right? That's what we want to do. Louisa said, I found that having a mentor at the top of the ladder when I was at the bottom showed me how many tasks were alike, but she was looking at it from the top down. I was looking at how to get the next level. I love that. Vicky says, I have a hard time celebrating my own successes. I'm ready to move on to the next thing. Vicky, you are not alone, but I want you to start, just take a minute, maybe 30 seconds, write it down, celebrate it, pat yourself in the back, like go get a cookie, do something to celebrate. Michelle says, can you always be available? You are an amazing cheerleader. Yes, for a price, Michelle, I am always available. Travis says, stop thinking that accomplishments don't matter just because you think the accomplishment is an obligation. Travis, that's fantastic. I love that. Write down, don't type a list of 5 accomplishments. Yeah, so there's something about writing things down. I'm a big fan of keeping this in a notebook. When we physically write, with a pencil or a pen, like, with our hand, it actually means that your brain absorbs it more. That's why research shows that people take notes, physically handwrite notes, they actually absorb more information. So I'm a big fan of writing down your accomplishments. Visualize your path to success. So instead of visualizing that path to failure or how you're going to fail in this project, visualize how you're going to succeed in this job. Visualize your path to success. So for those of you who play sports, uh, they always teach you sports psychology always says to you, you need to visualize where you want your shot to go, not where you don't want it to go. So I tend to golf with my husband now and then. I suck. I'm no good. But what I learned is that if I'm going through a sand trap where there's a big tree and I'm like, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree. You know what I do? I hit the stupid tree every stupid time, right? But if I visualize, I'm going to hit that green, I'm going to the green, I'm going to get the fairway right there, right to the middle of the fairway, then I have a much better chance of not hitting that darn tree. So visualize the path to success, not the path of obstacles or failure. And then, of course, you do want to own and share your successes. This is part of like your personal branding, but this is also being able to verbalize your successes. Because when you put it out there in the world, then you're putting it out there in the world, and that's part of owning it, right? To be able to say, yeah, someone asked you, how's it going? What you been working on? And say, I just finished this really cool project with my team. It was very successful, and I'm really happy. I'm really proud of the work we did. Put it out there. Reinforcing your positive inner talk with positive outer talk is really important. And I know that this is hard because we confuse confidence with arrogance. We think if we talk about our successes, people are going to think we're arrogant. That is not the case. When we're arrogant is when we take all the credit, when we act like we're the only person that can accomplish something. But when we show pride in our accomplishments, then we are showing up as confident. And by the way, when you're talking about your accomplishments, you're just stating facts, right? You're not blowing them up. You're just stating a fact. I brought this project done 2 weeks early and 10% under budget. It was really fun. I had a great team. We worked out. I'm very proud of it. Boom. That's what it is. Stephen says, if you have recently had an awakening moment, can you share a recent professional where you changed your mind, flip-flop due to new evidence, and what was the internal process used to acknowledge the change without damaging your confidence? Ooh, let me think about that, Stephen. That's a great question. Because my first thing goes to how I don't do that with my husband, but that's a whole nother story. I fight to the death, But the thing with the intellectual humility, I will say this: when you're presented with ideas that you don't necessarily agree with right away, you could either be a scout or a soldier. A scout is going to explore that idea, right? And then be like, oh, that's interesting. Or you can just be a soldier that just defends that idea. So I would say, Stephen, this happens to me quite frequently with my team. I will present something like, here's what we're going to do. And someone's like, yeah, I don't really think we're going to do that. And I have to really catch myself. I have to really wait for a minute. I'm going to say, okay, tell me about your idea. Tell me what you think. Tell me why, and then I will often change my mind. But I also have a Libra moon. So that means I can see both sides really easily. All right. So we're going to practice celebrating ourselves. So get your chat fingers ready, people. So here's all I want to do. I want you to share an accomplishment of something that you're proud of in the chat box. That's right. It's time to practice celebrating ourselves and our accomplishments.
These chats are so great. Like I'm really enjoying seeing what people are saying. But I really, oh, excellent, a promotion. Congratulations. I really like your thing though about writing. Like you
Yeah,
remember stuff better when you write because it is so true. Typing
it's so
just is
true.
not the same,
And it's something
which is
that's
why
old school
journaling is
people do. All
right.
right, all right. And being able to grow within my organization. Excellent. Paula, I finally started my personal business and got my first client. Oh, congratulations, Paula.
Congratulations.
Successful implementation of GASB 101 at my new job. I've been in this position for less than a year. That's huge. Semi-finalist for a TED Talk. That's awesome. Louisa says, helping people and volunteering. Abraham, after 24 years of civilian service, I decided to retire. Good luck in your next journey. Travis was able to get our first mixed income housing project across the finish line for a program that was running before I began. I love this. Trisha's going to the gym regularly. I love that. Success, being able to handle stressful situations from Jenny, love it. Stephen has divorced his perfectionist self. I love that. Hopefully, you're not paying the alimony to your perfectionist self. Practicing boundaries and saying no, Missy Smith. The ability to say no is so powerful. Passing the Washington State Bar on first try after failing California State Bar. Lola, I love that because I love that you included a failure. I love that, love that, love that. Survived a career with the federal government, now able to volunteer and give back, Viviana, says Viviana. Yeah. So, and how did that feel to like actually say, this is what I did? And with that, we have another poll. So just in general, I know I made you do this, but in general, how comfortable are you with owning and celebrating your accomplishments? Are you very comfortable? Couldn't wait to put this in the chat box. Are you mostly comfortable? Is it somewhat? Or is it not at all comfortable celebrating and sharing your accomplishments? I will
Wow,
admit,
people are responding fast,
yeah,
by the
okay.
way.
I will admit, I'm between somewhat and mostly. This is something that was very hard for me and is still hard for me to do. I'm really good at sharing the accomplishments of my team, but it's really hard for me to use those I statements. Felicia says, working out again to get through menopause without losing my mind. Girl, am there, been there, and it does help. I do Pilates 4 times a week now. Valerie celebrating the ability to say no. I love it. Calvin's obtaining reasonable accommodation to today's federal workplace. Congratulations. Kim Starr passed all her national exams for insurance and her ASP. That had to be a big accomplishment because that sounds really hard. Mitchell said, I went into work today with a positive outlook on life instead of a negative one. Change of a mindset. That is so awesome. Changing the mindset is everything. You know, we get to choose how we see the world. How's our third poll going there, Candace?
Um, I'll give everybody like say 5 to 10 more seconds,
Oh,
just so we
Ruth
get a
beat
little bit
cancer
more.
during, okay, Ruth beat cancer during the pandemic. Oh, Ruth, God bless you. That's awesome.
Okay, I'm going to shut down the poll now.
Okay. All right. I love the 11%. They're very comfortable. That's awesome. Okay, my not at all people. I hope you put something in here because see, it wasn't hard. You didn't like dissolve or like spontaneously combust. Somewhat, mostly great. So really being able to do it and finding a way that's comfortable. And oftentimes celebrating our accomplishments is about balancing the I with the we, especially if you worked with a team on something. So really take the time to track your successes, celebrate them, and own them. It's really key to helping you uh, um, break those stories, those negative stories that go on your head. All right, so let's get to our last strategy. And these are, you'll see these are all so connected. So even if you only try one of these, it's going to help you. And this is around a growth mindset. And growth mindsets are really important for not only our growth, but they really can be helpful in taming taming any kind of feelings of imposterism. So I kind of want a cupcake right now. Kim, me too. um, I love that D Dixon's going to choose to invest in a positive mindset every day. You know, I can get very a negative mindset as well, and I can be really judgy when it comes to people. And so I've learned to reframe it. Like, you know, I'll be walking down the street and someone's blocking the sidewalk, which is my big pet peeve. And I used to in my mind say, oh, I hate people. I hate people. I hate people who are blocking sidewalks. I hate those people that block sidewalks. But instead, I just reframed it to, I hate it when the sidewalk is blocked, right? But taking like just little subtle reframing, or, you know, or if I was even a better person, I'd be like, does that person need help? Or maybe I could help that person. Or getting on an airplane. Okay, here's a mindset for you. I get on an airplane. I gotta be honest, like I fly a lot for work, and the crying baby, I want to like, I just want to throw them and the mother off the plane, right? Or the father, whatever it is. But now I found myself reframing, saying, oh my goodness, that must be so much work. I force myself to go talk to the woman or the parent, and I say, oh, your baby's so cute. And I find that if I just make a little reframe instead of like negatively, like assuming they're just going to ruin my day, to really having some empathy for what that experience must be like traveling with children. And, you know, it really does work. But I do have to remind myself every time I walk in an airport to do this. So it doesn't come natural, but it does work. All right. So back to growth mindset. So this is, of course, based on the work of Carol Dweck, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So she has looked, and this is a continuum. So there's a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is one that we that believe our basic qualities can be cultivated through effort. That our true potential is always kind of unknown and unknowable. That we may start out in one place, but if we can embrace some of the growth mindset strategies, that we can constantly grow. So it's really about learning over performing, right? When we're in imposter syndrome, we're actually focused on performing, right? Because we think that we are not good enough, right? And that's really a fixed mindset. So a fixed mindset is a belief that one's qualities are kind of carved in stone, that creates this urgency to prove ourselves over and over, because a fixed mindset puts performing over learning. So you can see how imposter syndrome could get us into also a fixed mindset. But imposter syndrome could also put us into a growth mindset if we choose that path. And this is the power of how we can turn imposterism into a positive element in our lives, because it can make us think through this to choose to go into a growth mindset. So when we think about growth mindsets and why growth mindsets are better learners, is because they actually pay more attention externally to corrective information. Okay. So they're going to focus less attention on their internal emotions or their gremlins or their fixed mindsets, because they're going to be less anxious about what's going on inside of here and more focused on what's out there and that information that we're receiving from the external world. So here's a couple of things that can help you shift away. So a characteristic of mindset characteristic, let's say around beliefs. So a fixed mindset kind of thinks, I'm born with these skills. I'm either good at them or I'm not. But a growth mindset says, I can learn and grow in anything I need to learn and grow in. A fixed mindset focuses on performance and outcomes and not looking bad. Where a growth mindset is going to focus on the process getting better. What can I learn about this process? How could I make this better? For example, for those 99 people that liked my presentation, I'm going to do that. But maybe there's a nugget and that 1% that didn't like it. And what can I perhaps do to make my process better? Challenges and obstacles. A fixed mindset is going to avoid challenges. They're going to give up easily. They're going to frame challenges and obstacles as threats. Where a growth mindset is going to embrace these. They're going to persist and persevere. They're going to frame opportunity and they're going to frame obstacles as opportunities and move through setbacks. Effort. Growth mindsets see effort as useful. It leads to mastery. It leads to growth. Fixed mindsets say not really useful. Like, if I'm not good at it, why should I bother? So they're going to see effort more as fruitless. Criticism, feedback, and this is really important. A growth mindset is going to learn from criticism. They're going to use that as useful information and they're going to appreciate it and use it to grow. A fixed mindset is going to see criticism and feedback as a challenge, as a setback, and they're going to get defensive, take it personally. And if you're already in imposterism and you get critical feedback and you've got a fixed mindset, that's going to send you right down the K-hole. Making mistakes. Growth mindset people embrace mistakes. They use them to learn. They treat them as opportunities, where a fixed mindset is going to hate them and they're going to feel like the sting of failure all too much. And then this is one that can be really helpful too, is the success of others. I think for many people, this is when you know if you're in fixed or growth. So in a fixed mindset, we feel threatened by other people's success. We think that their success belittles our success, or that it makes us look even smaller. Where people with a growth mindset look at the success of others as inspiration, as a way to grow, as a way to move forward, as like, oh, I can find lessons there. So here are a couple of things that you can use. So the more that you can get yourself into a growth mindset, actually, the more you're also combating the elements of the fixed mindset that will magnify imposterism. It's hard to have imposterism if you're having a growth mindset, because the growth mindset, just like the intellectual humility, reframes what you're experiencing into a positive growth oriented path, as opposed to a path that holds you back. So now that was a lot to talk about in just one slide, but it's really about understanding how we can use imposterism for growth. So a couple of things to reflect on. this is very similar to challenging your stories. You got to listen for your fixed mindset, right? Things, if you hear the saying, you've got to recognize that you have a choice in how you're interpreting these challenges, setbacks, or criticisms. 3, you can reframe with growth mindset language, just like we talked about with rewiring. And it's really around this. I think the best way to use the growth mindset is to understand the power of yet. So instead of saying, I don't know this, or I'm not good enough, or I don't have the skills, I want you to reframe it. I haven't learned this yet. I don't know how yet. I don't have the ability yet. I don't know the answer yet. I don't get it yet, right? When you add that yet, you are opening yourself up to a growth mindset. You are actually also doubling up on intellectual humility, and you are reframing that negative thought that is also fueling your imposterism into a positive path for growth. The power of yet. I find this to be the simplest strategy and so useful. I cannot tell you how many times this has helped me get through something I didn't think I was good enough to do, that I didn't think that I should be the one that was doing it. Like, I can't believe they asked me to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I use this, and I'm telling you, people, it works. At least it works for me. But I also want you to use imposterism to really, as I said before, really take your growth mindset actions. I think we talked about this. Take on challenges wholeheartedly, learn from your feedback. But what I want to talk about here before we run out of time is asking for help. People with imposterism or under the throes of imposter phenomena are often reluctant to ask for help because we think if we need help, that just reinforces that we are imposters, right? But nothing could be further from the truth. So asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of self-awareness and commitment to success. Strong leaders, strong colleagues know how and when to leverage others' experience and expertise. So stop thinking that asking for help is a sign of weakness. It is not. And here are some ways that you can do this. I'm going to give you some words. First of all, if you ask a question, frame your ask around achieving a goal. I want to make sure we get this right. Could I get your input on X? To deliver the best outcome on this project, I'd appreciate your perspective on Y. See, that's a confident way to ask for help. Be specific. Could you walk me through how you handled the reporting process last quarter? Or I'd appreciate 15 minutes of your time to review this section for accuracy, right? Clear requests sound strategic. Vague requests sound uncertain. Show that you put some work into it already. So maybe that you just need help on one part. So it might be something like, I've tried A and B, but I'm hitting a roadblock on C. Could you help me think through it? This signals problem-solving help, not dependence on that person. Acknowledging the expertise of other people. People love to be recognized for their strengths. So you might say something, you know what, Candace, you're so great at simplifying complex data. Could I get your advice on how to present this clearly? Boom, Candace isn't going to think I'm weak. Candace is going to think that I'm amazing, that I'm asking her for help. So here's the thing, ask for help. And you want to ask early. Seeking input early in a project looks proactive. When you wait until you're in crisis mode, that reads as unpreparedness. All right, so that's it. We've got just 1 or 2 more minutes. We got one more poll for you. Go ahead and launch it. This is what of these strategies we talked about might you try? T. McKeever, thank you for this part. I love examples of how to word this differently. Yes. Yes, I agree. And you guys can get copies of these slides, I think. But just knowing how to ask it in a way that makes you look confident and makes you look collaborative. And it's just a great way to ask questions. Yeah, I know they're great examples too. I love them as well. And I think I got them from some book. Like, I don't even know where I got them. I've been using them for so long. So cultivating a growth mindset. So what strategies are you going to try? Are you going to embrace, identify your root causes? Are you going to do a little intellectual humility, rewire my inner dialogue, talk about it with others, get a mentor, be a mentor, owning and celebrating your successes? Are you going to cultivate a growth mindset, or are you going to learn to ask for help? asking for help is something every year I put on my like New Year's resolution is I'm going to ask for help because I too have a hard time doing that. But I will tell you this, every time I've ever asked someone for help, it's always been the best idea ever. Like they've always gotten help and it makes my relationship stronger when I ask people for help, except for my husband. I'm not saying go get advice from your spouse because if you have a husband like mine who's a know-it-all, that doesn't work very
I didn't
well.
know that was an option. Like,
Right? No, yeah. But yeah, I've got one of those husbands that, he'll be like, "How was your day?" And I'm like, "Well, it was fun," but and then immediately he's going to give me advice on something he knows nothing about. So I don't that. So remember that you got this. You have this. Like you have everything that you have inside of you that can help you not only combat your imposterism, but to change it into something that's positive force in your life, that's going to help you succeed, that's going to help you live the professional and personal life that you deserve. So with that, I want to say thank you very much. Oh, thank you, Allison. I know I talked really fast, so I apologize for that. And I also want to just say another shout out of thanks to all of you public servants working for the government. I know is not always easy. You don't always get the recognition you deserve. Most people don't even know what their government does for them, but we'd all be up a creek without a paddle if it wasn't for all you govies and all your dedication in public service. So I just want to say thank you and good luck to all of you. Oh, I'll show you my contact information, which feel free to reach out. Find me on LinkedIn. I did some YouTube. I got some Instagram stuff going on. I'm easy to find people. I'm everywhere.
so just those are the results of the poll, just as a heads up.
Great.
And thank you so much, Mary. I always love listening to you and your presentations and such. And based on the chat, so did everybody else. You really, this was a really great session. I just do want to give everybody a reminder. If you want the CPE credit, definitely make sure you take the, fill out that post-event evaluation form. You can get that in the resource option at the bottom of the tab, or you can go to the resources center in the back. And just want to thank all the NextGen Partner Alliance supporters for helping us put on this next gen. And just as a heads up, our next session is going to start at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Those are our closing keynotes, and you absolutely don't want to miss them. So they're really going to be, it's a great way to conclude what's a great day. So thank you so much again, Mary. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye, everyone.